The book of John works really hard to portray Jesus as the Passover sacrifice, having him crucified on the day of preparations and making sure that his bones are not broken. The book of John wanted to portray him as the lamb that takes away the sin of the world. But there's one problem with this. The Passover lamb was never intended to take away sin. So what was the Passover lamb all about? The Passover lamb was a way to prove our devotion, our willingness to follow God anywhere, to override our nature and trust in the one above. You see, Egyptians held sheep as sacred. They were deities to the Egyptians. It was an absolute abomination for them if somebody were to slaughter and eat their sheep. And that's why the Egyptians would not eat together with Joseph and his brothers. That's also why Joseph told his family to say that they were shepherds in order that Pharaoh would send them far away from the general populace, because it was an abomination for the Egyptians. By being sent away from the general populace, they would be able to preserve their way of life, not be influenced by Egyptian society. One example of these sheep deities is Khnum, who is believed to be an incarnation of the great god Ra. Before the children of Israel left the land of Egypt, God told them to do two things to prove their dedication to him. Number one, engage in circumcision, and number two, take the god of the Egyptians, slaughter it, publicly roast it so the smell would waft the land of Egypt, keep its form intact, and eat it. Now just imagine how the Egyptians must have felt seeing their god slaughtered so publicly, smelling it being burnt before their eyes. By doing this, the children of Israel proved that they feared only God. They weren't afraid of human beings. It was the ultimate test of dedication. It wasn't about atoning for sin. So equating Jesus with a Passover lamb that he came to remove sin from the world is totally getting this wrong. The Passover lamb was not about taking away sin. Of course, there are many other problems with Jesus being the sacrifice, but that's beyond the scope of this particular video. Moreover, just so you know, the book of John is very different from the Synoptic Gospels. In the book of John, Jesus is crucified on the day of preparations in order to make him the Passover lamb. That would mean that the Last Supper took place before his crucifixion, before the day of preparations. It was just a regular meal. In the Synoptic Gospels, on the other hand, the Last Supper was actually a Passover meal, and Jesus was crucified on the first day of Passover. That's a huge difference. In John, Jesus was crucified before the onset of the festival. In the Synoptic Gospels, he was crucified after the onset of the festival. Moreover, you have plenty of other difficulties to deal with here. The Passover lamb was supposed to be slaughtered, it was supposed to be roasted, it was supposed to be eaten, and any remainders was supposed to be burnt. The book of John got it all wrong when it came to equating Jesus with the Passover lamb. But of course, when you're making things up, you can say anything you want, and hopefully people will believe you.